In this video, I'm going to share a bit of my decades-long fascination with the near-death experience in relation to the Baha'i Faith. For me, both have always gone hand in hand and complemented each other. Looking back on both, I'm struck by the uncanny synchronicity that has guided my own spiritual quest in this regard. Perhaps I'll share my story another time, but in this video, I want to share how the near-death experience has enhanced my own appreciation of the Baha'i sacred writings. And moreover, it's quite striking how both affirm each other in numerous ways. Check the description box for links to the original videos and text passages used.
The most beautiful garden I have ever seen in my entire life, or felt. Like there were colors that don't exist here. I had no shoes on, and so just even the grass between my toes was like nothing you've ever experienced. It was more peaceful than any moment I've had as a human in this life. There was a creek and I could put my toes in it, and it was like everything radiated God's love and energy, and there was a certain glow, kind of like Avatar, a certain glow to everything. So every molecule could connect energetically with everything else. So the grass could feel the water could feel the flowers. I could feel all of that. There was no separation.
And suddenly it was a totally green, lush, gorgeous looking area, grass and bright flowers, all kinds of colors that I had never seen before, trees with beautiful, lush leaves. It was mesmerizing. And I noticed that this immense light that I had come into was actually within every living thing that I was looking at, inside the flowers, inside the grass, inside the trees and leaves, and emanating out.
I knew that there was no doubt in my mind that it was time to go, and where I was going I didn't know. But what happened next was almost like a twinkling of an eye, and I was standing in an open field. It was the most beautiful surrounding that I could have ever been in. And I'll tell you why, because where I was standing was in grass, and grass was up to about my waist. And that grass was not blowing like the wind, it was flowing. And I remember so vividly touching the tops of that grass and feeling something so special. It was like that grass was full of love. I don't know how to describe that other than I could feel that love coming from the grass. Now, one thing that was told to me when I was standing there by the person that was behind me was I was never to look back. But what I could do is I could look to the left, and I could look to the right, and I could look in front of me. And to the left, the far left, were trees. These were the most unusual looking trees that I have ever seen. They were trunks that were just huge in size. I could see leaves at the top, beautiful leaves. And something that I experienced was color that I have never seen here up on the earth. We see things in 3D here. You 10 times that, and the colors were just magnificent. The green that was on top of the trees were just something that I've never experienced before. The bark on those trees was the most beautiful brown color that I've ever seen. Now, to the right of that forest was wildflowers that I have never seen before in my life, mainly because the colors were just so beautiful. They were colors that that I've never experienced before. And they were wildflowers. And the flowers came up again up to about my waist. I have never experienced love come from flowers, from plants, from trees, but I felt like it was alive, but it was alive with love. And it gave me so much peace. But when people ask, how can you describe the colors? They're undescribable.
I moved into what appeared to be a sea of light. It was as if every atom or molecule in this room had been electrified with love, with creative and very powerful love. We think of love as being something not powerful, but this love, I realized, was the greatest force of all things. And it was as if every atom were an individual and were singing and was welcoming me and was full of love. And yet I was more and more attracted to what I perceived to be the center of this sea of light. It was as if in the center of this sea there was a sun. And my heart was just irresistibly attracted to that. And again, in an instant, I entered this center of the sea of light, this sun in the sea, the light, the heart of the light. And it was as if I were devastated. It was as if I were, just spider silk in the solar wind. I was completely devastated by bliss and by rapture and by ecstasy. And yet I was not. I was simply in and of, and because of that light, and yet I was, as an individual, destroyed. It was as if I were the quintessential phoenix. And it seemed that I was in that non-place, that place of non-being as an individual for forever. And then yet again, my consciousness at some point was gathered back together as an individual, like sands upon a shore, into an individual form. And I was accompanied now by a presence, as opposed to simply being devastated by this holy storm of light. And I was called to recount for the deeds of my life. And this recounting for the deeds of one's life is not like we would think at all in terms of this life. Because what was important were the choices that I made. And what was more important than just the choices that I made were my motivations and my intents, and really the state of my heart in doing any single action. And I realized in this, because I experienced sort of in a holographic awareness that was rather instantaneous, how every action that one takes is like a stone cast in the water. And if it's loving, that stone is cast in the water, and the loving action goes out and touches the first person that it's intended for, and then it touches another person, and then it touches another person, because that person interacts with other people, and so on and so on. And every action has a reverberating effect upon every single one of us on the face of this planet. So if I had committed a loving action, it was like love upon light. A purely loving action was the most wonderful thing that I could ever have achieved in my life. This had more meaning than to have been a Rockefeller or President of the United States, or to have been, a great scientist and to have invented something just incredible. If I had committed a truly pure and loving action, it had reverberated throughout the stuff of every individual on that planet, and I felt that action reverberating through them and through myself. And I felt it in a way that is beyond what we can even feel ourselves on this plane of existence. And I could perceive now in a more physical sense a kingdom of light, and I could see that there was a river running between from where I was and this wonderful kingdom of light. And I could see that there were many people. It was populated by tremendous numbers of people. And I knew each and every one of them intimately, and I loved them all dearly. And they were waiting for me, and they were welcoming me, and they were busy, and they were working, and they were learning, and they were very much involved with us on this plane of existence, and that plane of existence. And I was very happy to see this wonderful and beautiful welcoming home to me. And there was a man standing at the edge of this kingdom, and he was welcoming me, come home. And I began to be moved again by my love, by my excitement, by my joy and my rapture and my attraction for this kingdom. And as I moved to the edge of the river, the light spoke. The light itself spoke and said, "It is not time." And this I understood absolutely in words. It was as if this was the word. And I froze, and I knew that I was simply pausing there as a mercy, as a buffer, as a protection for the shock that was to come. I knew that I was just being strengthened for the change. And then again, the light spoke, and with the second pronouncement, the word was the reality, and it said, "It is not time." And with that, I was catapulted down a descending rainbow tunnel of light, and this I did indeed perceive to be a tunnel. And my soul was crying out with great, terrible anguish and grief, because I felt as if I were Eve being cast out of the Garden of Eden. I felt as if I were leaving the desire of all desires, the hope of all hopes, the love of all loves. I was being cast away down this rainbow tunnel of light, and there was a descending frequency of sound and tone and light, down the rainbow spectrum, and sentiment also, and intensity. So I was pulling away from the great source of love and attraction as I was being cast down. And then in a great, horrible crash, I found myself there again like that, like a clap, way above my street. And I could see that the body was now on a gurney, and that they were moving the gurney to the ambulance.
It was like their communication is telepathic. It's sensed and felt and then absorbed. That's how communication is. It's without words. That was my experience. And the Creator impressed upon me things like, I am omnipotent. This is the source of divine energy. This is your real identity. This is the power back of all things. And while I was in that place, I began to see complex mathematical equations just hanging there. And I thought to myself, wow, the laws that govern the universe are so simple, so elegant. And I understood in that place that I was not my body, my race, my religion. I was part of this love and light that is this expanse, this divine energy. And what happened next was so fascinating, because then I saw and became part of this web of twinkling lights. And the way I described this web, which is what the book is named after, it was trillions and trillions and trillions of neurons woven together in this beautiful tapestry of twinkling lights. And they just were infinite. And they just seemed to hang on the ceiling of the universe. And while I was in that place, I understood that, from science class, we'll remember that a neuron has a nucleus inside of it, and then it has the dendrites and the tentacles, and they all weave together the same way that, our brain is made, our heart is made, the solar system is made. But in that place, I realized that each little spark of light, or quark, and quarks are the smallest building blocks of matter, which were made of light. And I understood in that place that this is how the divine creates. The divine creates with light. God uses light to transform and heal us, and also uses that same light energy, whether it's an animate or inanimate thing. All things are one. All things are, it's kind of like we're all made of the same stuff. And when you think about that, that's the recipe. Light is the recipe, whether it's photosynthesis for a plant, it really doesn't matter, because this is how things manifest. These quarks combine and they create infinite possibilities in the universe. They can create a solar system, they can create a plant, a tree, a person, or a dog. It's all the same. And as I stood there, I realized that we're all connected. Everything is connected. We're all one. And that was the message. It was a message of oneness and unity.
In that it has changed my entire life. It has made what I believe and how I live my life entirely different than what it was before the experience happened to me. The main reason I didn't feel worthy before was because as a child and praying for my father to live, that I hadn't felt that my prayer had been worthy enough, or I had been worthy enough for God to grant that to me. And so therefore I thought I have to learn how to become more and more and more worthy, which is what led me into the paths that I had gone into in terms of born again Christianity, in terms of trying to be baptized in the Holy Spirit. And what I called it was learning to cross all the T's and dot all the I's and become worthy enough. Whereas what I found when I was there was that I already was worthy enough. And not only was I, but so was my father and my brother and my other relatives who I knew very well had not been born again Christians, had not had baptisms in the Holy Spirit. In fact, before this all happened, I had worried deeply that they had not made it into the afterlife, that they had not crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And half of me worried that that was the case, and that when I died, I would be there and they wouldn't. Or did I really want to be there if they weren't? So lots of questions having to do with worthiness completely were evaporated by my experience, because I wasn't judged in any way. I was made to feel completely and totally loved and accepted as I was, and realized that that's true of everyone.
And my whole life has really transformed in such a huge way. And I found my way to beautiful spiritual communities, because I knew that that was part of my mission, was to find my people. And so I just set intention and I asked the universe, I said, please send me my tribe. I know that they're here somewhere. And all of my communities manifest. I belong to 12-Step Fellowship, that's a spiritual program. I also study the Baha'i Faith, which is a beautiful, sacred, I love their scriptures so much. It resonates so much for me. They believe in all manifestations of God. And I'm not a Baha'i. You don't have to be a Baha'i to like get into this scripture. I also study A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical text channeled by Jesus. It's a reprogramming, and that's a big part of my life as well. I have a wonderful Course in Miracles community. And I belong to a group for near-death experiencers and spiritual experiencers on the IONS platform. And that's really changed my life. Going to our online sharing groups has given me so much language for my experience. And, I think the really big takeaway for me was that something is happening on a grand level. Like, I would not have been awoken otherwise. And the information that I was downloaded with in my experience was very loud and clear. We are in the midst of the Great Awakening. This is the most exciting time to be on Earth. We've all signed up to be here for Earth's ascension. We're here to transmute negative energy, to shift the collective consciousness from a level of third-dimensional thinking to fifth-dimensional thinking, which means from ego-centered thinking to God-centered thinking. And yeah, it's supposed to be a wild ride, and I'm really grateful that I was able to share my experience with you today. Thanks for staying so present for it.
One of the central tenets of the Baha'i Faith is the concept of oneness, such as the oneness of humanity and the oneness of religion. As we've just heard, oneness is also a common theme of NDE experiencers. With respect to the oneness of religion, Baha'is often use this metaphor. Imagine the divine light as the sun radiating light throughout the entire universe. Everything in existence, to varying degrees, is capable of reflecting this divine light. In this metaphor, the founders of the great religions, such as Moses, Krishna, Zoroaster, the Buddha, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the Báb and Bahá'u'lláh, can be thought of as perfectly polished mirrors. Even though the sun does not actually descend into the mirror, nevertheless, the divine light is made manifest in the mirror. Thus, by analogy, the founders of the great religions can be thought of as manifestations of God in this physical realm. The divine origin of the light is not diminished if it appears at various times to different people. Their spiritual teachings, such as the Golden Rule, remain constants. But laws concerning social norms and religious practices must adapt according to the needs of the time and place. Interestingly, an ancient manuscript has recently been published that closely parallels this Baha'i concept of a manifestation of God.
The story of the Magi is poetically brief, just 12 verses in the Gospel according to Matthew, that's all. But now a rediscovery of an ancient text has sparked new debate. It's called The Revelation of the Magi, and amazingly, it purports to be the account of that wondrous journey by the Magi themselves.
It ends up being the most complex, the richest, the strangest story about the wise men to come out of Christian antiquity. And until now, it had never been translated into English.
Brent Landau translated the work, which has just been published. He's a scholar of ancient biblical languages and teaches at the University of Oklahoma.
So this is, on its surface, their own story.
It's an incredibly grand story. So who the Magi are in this text is they are descendants of Adam and Eve's third son, Seth. They live in this far eastern land. The text calls the land Shir, and from other ancient texts, it seems like the place it had in mind is the land of China. And these Magi are practicing their rituals year after year in expectation of this star's coming.
It's a very ancient text.
It's extremely old. Yes, absolutely.
Brent Landau translated the Revelation of the Magi from the only known copy of it, written in Syriac and kept in the Vatican Library. It's a very different story from the traditional one. The star is the most startling and mystical difference.
The star its light concentrates and reveals the small, luminous human being.
The star becomes...
a star child, if you will.
And it's God.
It's Christ. As excited as they are, though, Christ tells them, this is one of many occasions on which I have appeared to the peoples of the world. So this text maybe even is saying that there are no non-Christian religions because Christ is the revelation behind everything.
In every faith there is Christ.
Yes.
That's what the revelation of the Magi is saying.
That's what I think it's saying.
There's also a video about the Book of the Magi on this channel if you're interested. In any case, the Book of the Magi also fits well into the popular Christ consciousness theme. It's helpful to keep in mind that Christ is actually a title that means the anointed one or the chosen one. For instance, in the Quran, Muhammad refers to Jesus as the Spirit of God, or in Arabic, Ru'ullah. Baha'is refer to the founder of their faith by a title, the Glory of God, or Baha'u'lláh. It's quite interesting that you can find references to these manifestations of light in all the religions. Here, for example, is a passage from the New Testament about Jesus Christ.
And after 6 days Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And, behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him.
Baha'is have this first-hand account of the very first person to recognize the station of Baha'u'lláh.
How shall I ever describe that voice and the verses it intoned, and his gait, as he strode before me? Methinks, with every step he took and every word he uttered, thousands of oceans of light surged before my face, and thousands of worlds of incomparable splendor were unveiled to my eyes, and thousands of suns blazed their light upon me.
Rather than attempting to address the various aspects of the near-death experience in this video, instead, I'd like to share some passages concerning spiritual transformation from the book Light After Death, The Baha'i Faith and the Near-Death Experience. There's a link to a free online version in the description box.
Chapter 10. The Transformation. The all-loving God created man to radiate the divine light, and to illumine the world by his words, action, and life.
In his book The Light Beyond, Raymond Moody discussed the transforming effect which the NDE has on the lives of those who have experienced it. Many Baha'is can readily identify with the impact that the NDE can have on people's lives, since the Baha'i teachings seem to affect a similar transformation. Most NDE research indicates that the individual, after the NDE, moves away from the confines of narrow, sectarian, and dogmatic religion. Organized religion gives way to a search for true spiritual fulfillment. They seem to realize that the essence of true religion is love and unity. A NDE subject interviewed by Margot Gray in her book Return from Death relates.
I was raised in the Church of England, but since my experience I have become non-denominational. I now feel all religion is basically the same, and I think there should be a world religion which would put an end to the religious divisions and problems that this causes.
In the Baha'i view, there is in reality only one religion, which has been continually renewed. We need to concentrate on the spiritual essence of religion and not on the outward practices. Abdul Bahar, speaking on this subject, once said,
"We should, therefore, detach ourselves from the external forms and practices of religion. We must realize that these forms and practices, however beautiful, are but garments clothing the warm heart of the living limbs of divine truth. We must abandon the prejudices of tradition if we would succeed in finding the truth at the core of all religions. Unless we make a distinction in our minds between dogma, superstition and prejudice on the one hand, and truth on the other, we cannot succeed. When we are in earnest in our search for anything, we look for it everywhere. This principle we must carry out in our search for truth. Science must be accepted. Light is good in whatsoever lamp it is burning. A rose is beautiful in whatsoever garden it may bloom. A star has the same radiance if it shines from the east or from the west. Be free from prejudice, so will you love the Sun of Truth from whatsoever point in the horizon it may arise. You will realize that if the divine light of truth shone in Jesus Christ, it also shone in Moses and in Buddha. The earnest seeker will arrive at this truth. Today, men have grown into such adoring attachment to outward forms and ceremonies that they dispute over this point of ritual or that particular practice, until one hears on all sides of wearisome arguments and unrest. There are individuals who have weak intellects and their powers of reasoning have not developed, but the strength and power of religion must not be doubted because of the incapacity of these persons to understand.
If you read the sacred text of the various religions with a spiritual eye, you will readily see that they emanate from one common source. Baha'is are taught that the beliefs of all people can, with a few exceptions, be traced back to divine inspiration. Moreover, they consider the station of all the prophets of God as being equal.
God sent his prophets into the world to teach and enlighten man, to explain to him the mystery of the power of the Holy Spirit, to enable him to reflect the light, and so in his turn, to be the source of guidance to others. The heavenly books, the Bible, the Quran, and the other holy writings have been given by God as guides into the paths of divine virtue, love, justice and peace.
God is interested in your heart. Of course, true religion has never consisted of splitting theological hairs. This is aptly expressed by one of Moody's subjects who, prior to his NDE, had studied at a seminary.
A lot of people I know are going to be surprised when they find out that the Lord isn't interested in theology. He seems to find some of it amusing, as a matter of fact, because he wasn't interested at all in anything about my denomination. He wanted to know what was in my heart, not my head.
Baha'u'lláh taught that the prophets of God reveal themselves in order to release latent spiritual qualities, which are present in each person. Their divinely inspired words, like spring showers on hardened seeds, bring forth fruits in the hearts of those who are receptive. Baha'is are specifically charged by Baha'u'lláh with the responsibility of working to eliminate religious intolerance.
The purpose of the one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of their true and inmost selves. That the divers communions of the earth, and the manifold systems of religious belief, should never be allowed to foster the feelings of animosity among men, is in this day, of the essence of the faith of God and his religion. These principles and laws, these firmly established and mighty systems, have proceeded from one source, and are the rays of one light. That they differ one from another is to be attributed to the varying requirements of the ages in which they were promulgated. Gird up the loins of your endeavor, O people of Baha', that haply the tumult of religious dissension and strife that agitateth the peoples of the earth may be stilled, that every trace of it may be completely obliterated. the utterance of God is a lamp, whose light is these words, ye are the fruits of one tree, and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one with another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship, so powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. The one true God, he who knoweth all things, himself testifieth to the truth of these words. Exert yourselves that ye may attain this transcendent and most sublime station, the station that can ensure the protection and security of all mankind. Consort with all men, O people of Baha, in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. If ye be aware of a certain truth, if ye possess a jewel, of which others are deprived, share it with them in a language of utmost kindliness and goodwill. If it be accepted, if it fulfill its purpose, your object is attained. If anyone should refuse it, leave him unto himself, and beseech God to guide him. Beware lest ye deal unkindly with him. A kindly tongue is the lodestone of the hearts of men. It is the bread of the Spirit, it clotheth the words with meaning, it is the fountain of the light of wisdom and understanding.
Abdul Bahar cautioned the Baha'is.
Do not distress or deny anyone saying, he is not a Baha'i. He will be known by his deeds.
Indeed, it's easy to call yourself a Baha'i, but in order to become a Baha'i in reality, you have to undergo a transformation of the spirit. Those who have had a near-death experience know that words alone don't suffice. One's deeds are the only baggage which he or she will take on the final journey. Abdul Bahar left this guidance for Baha'is concerning what it means to be a follower of the light.
All over the world one hears beautiful sayings extolled and noble precepts admired. But all these sayings are but words, and we see very few of them carried into the world of action. But Baha'is must not be thus, they must rise above this condition. Actions must be more to them than words. By their actions they must be merciful, and not merely by their words. They must on all occasions confirm by their actions what they proclaim in words. Their deeds must prove their fidelity, and their actions must show forth divine light. Let your actions cry aloud to the world that you are indeed Baha'is, for it is actions that speak to the world and are the cause of the progress of humanity. If we are true Baha'is, speech is not needed. Our actions will help on the world, will spread civilization, will help the progress of science, and cause the arts to develop. Without action nothing in the material world can be accomplished, neither can words unaided advance a man in the spiritual kingdom. It is not through lip service that the elect of God have attained to holiness, but by patient lives of active service they have brought light into the world. Therefore strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. Turn towards God, and seek always to do that which is right and noble. Enrich the poor, raise the fallen, comfort the sorrowful, bring healing to the sick, reassure the fearful, rescue the oppressed, bring hope to the hopeless, shelter the destitute. This is the work of a true Baha'i, and this is what is expected of him. If we strive to do all this, then are we true Baha'is, but if we neglect it, we are not followers of the light, and we have no right to the name. God, who sees all hearts, knows how far our lives are the fulfillment of our words.
Raymond Moody relates that NDE subjects sense the supreme importance of love, a boundless, universal, and unconditional love, which also manifests itself in a sense of interconnection to all creatures. That same boundless and universal love is the requirement for becoming a true Baha'i.
A man may be a Baha'i in name only. If he is a Baha'i in reality, his deeds and actions will be decisive proof of it. What are the requirements? Love for mankind, sincerity toward all, reflecting the oneness of the world of humanity, philanthropy, becoming enkindled with the fire of the love of God, attainment of the knowledge of God and that which is conducive to human welfare. Associate most kindly with all, be as one family, pursue this same pathway. Let your intentions be one that your love may permeate and affect the hearts of others so that they may grow to love each other and all attain to this condition of oneness. The world of humanity is filled with darkness, you are its radiant candles, it is exceedingly debased, you must be the cause of its exaltation. According to the teachings of Baha'u'lláh, you must love and cherish each individual member of humanity. The first sign of faith is love. The message of the holy, divine manifestations is love, the phenomena of creation are based upon love, the radiance of the world is due to love, the well-being and happiness of the world depend upon it. Therefore, I admonish you that you must strive throughout the human world to diffuse the light of love. The people of this world are thinking of warfare, you must be peacemakers. The nations are self-centered, you must be thoughtful of others rather than yourselves. They are neglectful, you must be mindful. They are asleep, you should be awake and alert. May each one of you be as a shining star in the horizon of eternal glory. This is my wish for you and my highest hope.
Love, the most glorious light.
Know thou of a certainty that love is the secret of God's holy dispensation, the manifestation of the All-Merciful, the fountain of spiritual outpourings. Love is heaven's kindly light. Love is the cause of God's revelation unto man, the vital bond inherent, in accordance with the divine creation, in the realities of things. Love is the one means that ensureth true felicity both in this world and the next. Love is the light that guideth in darkness, the living link that uniteth God with man, that assureth the progress of every illumined soul. Love is the most great law that ruleth this mighty and heavenly cycle, the unique power that bindeth together the divers elements of this material world, the supreme magnetic force that directeth the movements of the spheres in the celestial realms. Love revealeth with unfailing and limitless power the mysteries latent in the universe. Love is the spirit of life unto the adorned body of mankind, the establisher of true civilization in this mortal world, and the shedder of imperishable glory upon every high-aiming race and nation. Strive to become the manifestations of the love of God, the lamps of divine guidance shining amongst the kindreds of the earth with the light of love and concord. All hail to the revealers of this glorious light. I hope that in this nether world thou shalt attain unto heavenly light, thou wilt free the souls from the gloom of nature, which is the animal kingdom, and cause them to reach lofty stations in the human kingdom. Today all people are immersed in the world of nature. That is why thou dost see jealousy, greed, the struggle for survival, deception, hypocrisy, tyranny, oppression, disputes, strife, bloodshed, looting and pillaging, which all emanate from the world of nature. Few are those who have been freed from this darkness, who have ascended from the world of nature to the world of man, who have followed the divine teachings, have served the world of humanity, are resplendent, merciful, illumined and like unto a rose garden. Strive thine utmost to become godlike, characterized with his attributes, illumined and merciful, that thou mayest be freed from every bond and become attached at heart to the kingdom of the incomparable Lord. This is Baha'i bounty, and this is heavenly light.
Illumination.
With hearts set aglow by the fire of the love of God and spirits refreshed by the food of the heavenly spirit, you must go forth as the disciples, 1900 years ago, quickening the hearts of men by the call of glad tidings, the light of God in your faces, severed from everything save God. Therefore order your lives in accordance with the first principle of the divine teaching, which is love. Service to humanity is service to God. Let the love and light of the kingdom radiate through you until all who look upon you shall be illumined by its reflection. Be as stars, brilliant and sparkling, in the loftiness of their heavenly station. Do you appreciate the day in which you live? This is the cycle of the light of His beauty.
True distinction. Baha'i teachings pay particular attention to the dangers of materialism. NDE subjects also report a transformation in relation to material considerations. In their view, life should be thoroughly enjoyed, but helping others and contributing to society are life's true treasures. In our modern world, advertisements, television and movies reflect, or some might say promote, a culture which esteems wealth, affluence, youth, and physical appeal. Abdul Bahar taught that Baha'is should seek another form of distinction.
I desire distinction for you. The Baha'is must be distinguished from others of humanity. But this distinction must not depend upon wealth, that they should become more affluent than other people. I do not desire for you financial distinction. It is not an ordinary distinction I desire, not scientific, commercial, industrial distinction. For you I desire spiritual distinction, that is, you must become distinguished for loving humanity, for unity and accord, for love and justice. In brief, you must become distinguished in all the virtues of the human world, for faithfulness and sincerity, for justice and fidelity, for firmness and steadfastness, for philanthropic deeds and service to the human world, for love toward every human being, for unity and accord with all people, for removing prejudices and promoting international peace. Finally, you must become distinguished for heavenly illumination and for acquiring the bestowals of God. I desire this distinction for you. This must be the point of distinction among you.
Unity. Unity is the true watchword of the Baha'i Faith. On a grand scale, there is world unity, the unity of religions, the unity of the races, and the unity of the sexes. But on the individual scale, there's also unity, a realization that we are connected to every created thing and every other human being. In the hidden words, Baha'u'lláh revealed these words:
O children of men, know ye not why we created you all from the same dust? That no one should exalt himself over the other. Ponder at all times in your hearts how ye were created. Since we have created you all from one same substance, it is incumbent on you to be even as one soul, to walk with the same feet, eat with the same mouth and dwell in the same land, that from your inmost being, by your deeds and actions, the signs of oneness and the essence of detachment may be made manifest. Such is my counsel to you, O concourse of light.
This is the hallmark of the Baha'i transformation, the sign of being part of the concourse of light.